Welcome to Day Zero Update for September 22nd, 2024. I'm your host, Chris Elogi.
And I'm Brandon Perkins.
And yeah, we've got a big week of news here.
Yep.
A bunch of things have happened. We got a big lawsuit between Nintendo and, say, another company that made a Pokemon-style game.
Yep.
We got some more news on the Flappy Bird situation.
Yeah, we
we found
do.
out a little more about why that's not quite what we thought it was last week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we got some news on Skate, the return of Skate, some games that are coming out in the near future, as well as, let's just say, an interesting Like a Dragon spinoff that I don't think
Yep.
anybody expected.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, before we get to all of that news here, we'll talk about what we've been playing, and I will kick it off here. I've been playing some of the Plucky Squire.
Yep.
I am a few chapters in on that, enjoying it so far. It is very much more of a story focused, kind of top down Zelda-ish kind of game.
Mm-hmm.
Where you are playing as the Plucky Squire, who has been a big writer, I guess, and has written tons of successful books and such about their escapades and all that, and kind of changes a bit when, let's say, the bad guy that always loses ends up finding a way to cheat and win. Particularly by knocking the Plucky Squire out of the storybook that he is in and into the real world, which is this desk that this kid has, full of a bunch of school supplies and junk and whatnot. You managed to find your way back in, but yeah, you're kind of basically jumping back and forth at a certain point to solve puzzles or take out some enemies or whatever it needs of you. I'm just getting into the part where that's becoming a regular part of the level design for that, as you're kind of going to this one area where it's like, oh, you're off script. You've never been here before, so best of luck with that. So yeah, the combat's been pretty decent so far, though I feel like maybe the one thing that takes a bit of getting used to is that your attacks on enemies don't necessarily knock them back or stun them, like cancel out their attack they're about to do. So there's enemies that say shoot stuff at you or do attacks, and you kind of need to be very careful about that, lest you lose a bunch of your health.
Yep.
Though in Zelda fashion, there's lots of bushes and such that will drop hearts when you break them. So it's not really too big of an issue, but so far I've not died yet on anything, so that's not been a big deal. The puzzles have been pretty solid so far, though it's a lot of tutorial stuff so far. So you're kind of getting things that are kind of pretty obvious for what you need to do. But they do play around with the medium that the game is presented in as part of this storybook. So there's like a neat section early on where you need to get down this cliff, and the book turns sideways so that it is going lengthwise down the page for like a platforming section kind of stuff, and it does a lot of fun stuff with that kind of way that everything is presented on this really nice kind of looking paper in this like storybook thing. So that's a really cool aspect of it, is the presentation and the art, which is all really fantastic. So you do get a good bit of voice acting early on, though the part I'm at, there's none. So it definitely feels like, oh, we couldn't do that for everything in the game, which is fine. But yeah, it's a little bit jarring once you reach that point. Like a lot of JRPGs would do for a while, where it's like, oh, you first few hours it's going to be fully voiced. Then at a certain point, when it gets going, you're just looking at text. So it kind of takes you out of it a little bit, because the voice acting's been pretty good so far for each of the characters. But yeah, So yeah, that's the Plucky Squire. It's out on everything, I believe, and especially on PlayStation Plus Extra. So that one's worth checking out. The other game I got this week is UFO 50. This is the new game from Mossmouth, Derek Yu, the maker of Spelunky. This has been his project he's been working on for at least a few years now, where it is sort of a collaboration between him and a bunch of developer friends where they have made this fake retro collection of a bunch of old 80s games that are the way the interface has it framed is it's kind of like maybe an Apple IIe kind of old PC thing that all the games are on like floppy drives kind of thing, which like an Apple IIe was like a computer monitor that stacked up on top of like disk drives on top of a keyboard kind of thing. The way that was kind of how PCs looked back in the day, is they just kind of stacked themselves on top of the keyboard that housed most of your components, and that's kind of the glimpse you get when you start up the game is that kind of PC. It's called like the 2X, I think. And yeah, the game itself has 50 games in it, ranging from I think like 83 to 89. As a collection of games made by this one company that kind of changes names a couple of times. There's a little bit of story for each of the games where you push a button to bring up a bunch of information about it. Tell you basic gameplay description, controls, and various like stats based on how much you've played it and various things you've done. But the last one gives you like flavor text for lore on the game's development, and that is a pretty cool aspect of the game. As you learn, like, these are games made by like a handful of people, and that were working on business software, but moved to making games, and they make a lot of stuff here that's very much thinking after a lot of games of its era, though some have the vibes of like more modern indie games that style themselves with the retro vibes to it. But like the first one I played is very much like a very classic old school kind of PC game where it's technically like a platformer of sorts, a single screen platformer where you're going around this map, and as you find little paths to go to other parts of the map, you kind of load into those. You're kind of seeing like what trying to get around the map and find like treasure that can maybe make you either get a higher score or do more stuff. It's a little bit tough to gather a lot of that information right away.
Yeah.
There's a lot of trial and error on some of that stuff. And yeah, they don't go the like modern retro collection as far as having like save states and rewind and that kind of stuff. It's all kind of just these games as they are trying to being presented as they were, I guess. But a lot of games do keep track, like auto save your progress for the ones that it makes sense that they would, whereas others are kind of arcadey, like high score focused ones where you're just trying out to get better at the game. Like there's one early on, I forget what the name is, but it's like a Goemon arcade style game. So you're kind of this ninja that is going around attacking enemies, throwing your ninja stars at enemies. They'll drop eggs that give you points, and special ones drop power-ups that will upgrade your ninja stars, either be faster, get you a longer distance throw, that kind of stuff. And that's just pure going for a high score on the leaderboard, which I've played a decent bit of that and gotten up to like the I think 5th place on the local leaderboard. I don't believe this has any sort of online leaderboard stuff, which is a bit of a shame. I would like to have that as an option so that you can see like how ridiculous some people are going to get as good at this game as you can. but yeah, it's I've been kind of playing through chronologically. It has a bunch of options for sorting. You can sort based on like how much you've played them, or uh, chronologically, alphabetically. There's at least a few others that are probably more based on how much you've done in the game. There's reference to something of a garden, I guess, that if you complete special goals in each game, you do unlock something for a garden or whatever it is. It might be another game in there, but I don't know. But yeah, I'm still working my way around. There's been some really cool stuff. There's like a cool little like racing game that's almost like I forget what the Namco arcade racing game was, but like one of those kind of top-down racing games, but you're painting the floor as you're going, and you get some power-ups that can shoot a bunch of paint around. So you're trying to get more than 50% or whatever the goal is for that stage, and try and beat the AIs, which you can run into them and destroy the cars to help you out. But it's definitely a lot of hectic kind of arcadey action. There's like a golf game that I would say kind of plays a bit like Kirby's Dream Course, but it's more kind of like a freeform Metroidy version of that. So you got this big map that you're kind of hitting your golf ball around on, but you only have like 20 strokes you can use to get around on, but you have to take out enemies to refill it. So there's a lot of unique takes on styles of games, but also some that are very much in the vein of classic kind of games. That is really cool, and yeah, just a lot of great artwork here for these various games. So I'll definitely be playing some more of this, and have played some on PC and my Steam Deck. That it works pretty well on all that. So yeah, looking forward to playing some more of that. But yeah, that's been a cool collection. That is, I think, at a launch discount right now at $22.49. Regularly, it's $25, which is still a pretty good price because these aren't like mini game collections. Not like Mario Party mini games. They're sort of fully realized games, but may not be as long to play as a regular game would be. Though this was the era of games where you might pay a good penny for these games, but they might only be like a couple hours long. But there's supposed to be like an actual JRPG in here. It's probably got a decent amount of hours in it. But yeah, it's some pretty cool stuff. So yeah, definitely looking forward to put some more time into that. And then also been putting a little more time into Astrobot. Been working a lot this week, so I haven't been able to beat it to any. So I'm still working my way through it. But still enjoying it a lot. But yeah, that's been pretty much all I've been doing. So Brandon, what have you been doing?
Well, I also have been playing the Plucky Squire, and yeah, that game is actually very charming and very enjoyable. A lot of fun. Do kind of have some pacing issues with it, but that has less to do with more than anything than just sort of how the game actually plays. So other than that, it's a really charming game. Really loving, just it's really fun, really enjoying it. And honestly, it's a kind of game I've been wanting to play for a long time. Like you said, we don't want to go into too much into it because part of the fun of the game is the surprise to it. But yeah, and you mentioned Astrobot. I actually finished Astrobot a couple of days ago. I platinumed it. And yeah, that obviously with a game that has so many fun highlights to it, the final boss section is definitely one of them because the game basically turns into like a shmup basically, where you're riding your little dual sense controller jet thing, and you're sort of fighting all these little aliens that the big mucus alien sort of has. And every so often, you have to link up with some of the other bots who are basically writing all the giant pieces of PlayStation hardware that was in the Labo Museum in Astro's Playroom. So, the controllers, the memory cards, the consoles, all that stuff. And every so often, you'll link up into them to increase your firepower. And yeah, it's just overall really fun. But so I managed to get all of the 300 bots, or in my case, it was 304 because I got the extra bots that were added in Playroom. And once you do that, you are given one last challenge level, which is basically a combination of all of the elements from all of the previous challenge levels that you've gone onto, the ones that revolve around the various PS buttons. And that is probably the single hardest level in the entire game. Not only because it contains elements of all the previous challenge levels, but just like with all challenge levels, there are no checkpoints. If you die, you have to go all the way back. So it took about 10 or 12 tries going through it before I finally beat it. And you get one last very special bot at the very end of it. And honestly, it's the perfect choice for it. He's kind of a meme and he's very much beloved by PlayStation fans. And it would be obvious that he would probably be the last guy that you end up getting at the very end, but he is the last one, and he is just awesome. So yeah, that game was amazing. I'm gonna still keep hold of it because there's going to be some DLC coming soon, and I want to get what they're getting there. But once I finished that, I went ahead and started playing Night in the Woods because that was released on PS Plus. And that is a game I have played before, a lot of it. I really like that game. I never got around to finishing it, however, so I decided, now it's on console. I can just go ahead and do that now. And yeah, that game is it's one of those games where it's not only really charming and funny, it's also just so painfully relatable, especially if you're a older millennial. Because it takes place in a Rust Belt town where all the jobs are going away and all the, the stuff that you loved growing up is closing down and moving out of town. And and there's like a whole adult populace that just doesn't understand that things are changing. So, and obviously there's some slightly more sinister supernatural stuff happening underneath it. And once again, it's just really funny. It's a very specific type of humor, so I understand if it's not funny to some people, but it's definitely mine kind of humor. And I also upgraded my PS Plus membership to premium, so I would have access to a bunch of the older games. And because I was inspired by Astrobot, I decided to play the original Ape Escape. And that was a bad decision. Not because the game is bad, but because Ape Escape was made back in the day when 3D platformers were still a novelty. And much like with a lot of the games from that time period, the camera is not, bound to, one of the DualSense controllers. No. You have to use the D-pad in order to move the camera around, which is, as you can imagine, can be a bit of a pain in the ass. And also, like a lot of those early 3D platformers, you have to deal with things like pop-up because the graphics, still weren't up to the point where they could load all that stuff without it, just sort of popping into view. But otherwise, still a pretty fun, solid platformer from the era. But yeah, that's what I've been playing.
All right, so yeah, let's get to some news. And first up here, there are new additions to Game Pass, though I think all of these are already out at this point. Maybe one or two are not, but let's see. For September 19th, a few days ago, for console and PC, there's Wargroove 2, which is for for Ultimate and PC Game Pass. I guess we got to mention that now because it's not all these new releases, but it is in, I think, preview mode for
Mhm.
that. But that is one of the indie Advanced Wars style games. Um, so yeah, I remember liking the first one a good bit. So that's one to check out. For September 20th,
Mhm.
let's see, there's Frostpunk 2 for the PC
Mhm.
for Game Pass Ultimate and PC Game Pass. I know that's one you're looking forward to, but when it's not on just on PC, when it's on
Mhm.
console. But yeah, that's another one. Let's see. This one's coming out in a couple days on PC Game Pass and Game Pass Ultimate.
Mhm.
Our History Untold. That one's just for PC
Mhm.
as well. That is the game from Oxide Games. It's basically their take on a Civilization.
Mhm.
Um, I think one of the big changes is there's no hex grid or anything.
Mhm.
Uh, so that's a bit of a change. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's one you can check out here later this week. And that's it.
Mhm.
I assume that might be it for the rest of this month. I don't know.
Mhm.
But that's all they've announced here.
Yeah.
Just advertising it like Starfield's expansion comes out on the 30th.
Mhm.
You can check out EA Sports FC 25 in
Mhm.
early access before it launches later this week.
Mhm.
Let's see. That's about it mentioned here.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah. So yeah, that's Game Pass. A couple things there to check out.
Mhm.
Next up here, Nintendo Switch Online had some additions for the Super Nintendo app.
Yep.
4 new games. One that was already released here.
Mhm.
3 that are Japanese exclusives.
Mhm.
Uh, First up, Battletoads Double Dragon.
Mhm.
The combination of those two well-known franchises.
Mhm.
I did a stream playing all 4 of these games, and that one might have been the worst of them all because I don't think that holds up at all anymore. Um, yeah, I played as the Billy, I think. I forget which one of the Double Dragon guys, and
Mhm.
the main difference that they have from the Battletoads is that they have like an elbow drop thing
Mhm.
attack, and the enemies are just not fun to fight at all.
Mhm.
First boss is a Bobo, which is a classic Double Dragon boss,
Mhm.
though he just beats the shit out of you.
Mhm.
So to figure out the one attack that works, which is you have to do a uh, air kick, but you have to do it on the way up before you
Mhm.
hit the peak of your jump. Otherwise, you're just gonna get the shit beat out of you.
Yep.
It's like one specific type of attack. God forbid if you try to kick at the peak of your jump or on the way down, that will not work. Luckily, that's a game that has
Mhm.
all these have save states and rewind, so you get the crap beat out of you. You can just rewind and try again, but it's not a very interesting or fun game. But
Mhm.
yeah, so yeah, like Turtles in Time was much better as a beat 'em up, more
Mhm.
variety between the different characters and all that,
Mhm.
and just a more fun campaign. This one, I played a decent bit, and it just didn't really get much better at a
Mhm.
certain point. But yeah, the next up here we got Big Run, or as its title is on the box art, Jellicoe Rally Big Run: The Supreme Four-Wheel Drive Challenge. This is a game based on, I think, one of the big uh, endurance run races. I think it might be the Dakar Rally that
Yeah.
goes over northern Africa. And so this is kind of a point-to-point race where you're doing, I think, like 9 stages,
Mhm.
and you're basically carrying spare parts to replace your tires and engines and whatnot that get worn out,
Mhm.
as well as you kind of upfront pick crew, which it doesn't really tell you what any of that means. But this is a game that's perfect for save states because if you it gives you a time that you have to beat on the leg of the race you're doing, and if you don't beat it, you have to start all over again.
Mhm.
So it's that kind of replay value to it. Pretty solid racing. It's very outrunish kind of racing, though you don't have any boost or anything. You just have a high or low gear to swap between, which I didn't realize at first. So I was just driving on low gear and just literally going way too slow. So you kind of have to pick your points of like, oh, there's nothing going on. I'll go high, and turns come up, and you're like, oh, I got to go low so I can take this turn more easily. That kind of stuff. But
yeah.
The second one had a bunch of jumps, and that fucked up my engine pretty good for that. So you kind of have to watch out for that stuff, but use save states, and that'll be pretty decent for that. There's Cosmo Gang the Puzzle, which is available, I think, in Arcade Archives on all the consoles, so you can play the arcade version, but
yeah,
this is the Super Famicom version that only came out in Japan in 1993, and it's kind of I'd say more of a Puyo Puyo-esque kind of puzzle game.
Yeah.
But you have these little goobers that are in there mixed in with the blocks. And it needs Tetris style. You have to have the blocks going across. I think it's like 6 or 7 wide to take out a line. But if the goober is in there, it does not count. So you get this little thing that drops in some of the formations that is like a star that takes out enemies, but only in the direction it goes. So you kind of have to learn the way how that works. And so yeah, once you learn that, you kind of get better at it and gets a bit more enjoyable. But it's one of those where it's then basically like, what if we can make a puzzle game that's not quite Puyo Puyo, but also not quite Tetris, and just make it a little annoying. That's what they did.
Yep.
Made that game. They were smart to not release it in North America because nobody would have liked that game.
No, they would not have.
But now you can check it out and use Rewind and all that as you learn how to go. But
yeah,
there's like a campaign mode that is just teaching you essentially how things work. And that is you kind of try to learn a little bit better. And then there's just a basic 1-player and 2-player mode. So yeah, pretty decent, but there's obviously much better puzzle games out there.
Oh yes, by a pretty good margin.
Yeah. And the last one is Kunio-kun no Dodgeball Daio Zenin Shugo.
Yeah.
A follow-up to main Super Dodgeball game.
Yep.
And this is impenetrable because it's all Japanese text.
Yep.
So I had to look up, there's one GameFAQs walkthrough for this game, and it literally just translates the menus for you.
Yep.
So you can understand what's going on. And so when I uploaded the video for that, I made sure to link that walkthrough to be like, here, this will help you understand what's going on, because unless you know Japanese, this is going to be completely impenetrable.
Yep.
But once I got that going and sort of learned the controls, it works out pretty well. Also with Rewind, I could just literally undo any bad thing that I did. So I got down to like one person left. I just rewinded anytime that my guy got killed. So I managed to win the match.
Yep.
So yeah, that's the benefit of having Rewind and save states. You can undo any bad things as you're trying to learn how to play.
Yep.
But it has some cool stages. Like the one I was playing was, I guess, against the Japanese team. And they basically have this court that's like hanging off of a cliff over like a big, beautiful forest.
Yep.
Almost like a fall time kind of forest. So a lot of oranges and brown leaves and all that kind of stuff. So
oh yeah,
that was pretty cool. But yeah, definitely get the walkthrough that can tell you what anything means on the interfaces, because otherwise it's impenetrable. So there you go. 4 games, a couple that are pretty good, a couple that are maybe not, but yeah. Then we'll give you something else you can check out. Romancing Saga 2: Revenge of the Seven demo is out now.
Yep.
This is on PlayStation, Switch, and PC. Save data can be carried over to the full game when it launches. I think this is out, October 24th, so pretty soon.
Mm.
So you can check that out. That is the second of the Romancing Saga games.
Yep.
Because it's a Saga game, it means it's probably fine. It's probably not
Mm-hmm.
amazing or anything, but it's probably decent enough for what it is. But
Yep.
if you can tolerate what's going on, you'll probably enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
If not, you probably won't.
Nope.
Saga series, it's like either in or not.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not, definitely don't force yourself.
Yeah, especially so.
So yeah, there you go for that. And yeah, we also got some more news about the 30th anniversary PlayStation celebration that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
They announced a line of 30th anniversary products,
Mm-hmm.
which covers both the new PS5 Pro, the regular PS5 Slim, the PlayStation Portal, and DualSense and DualSense Edge
Mm-hmm.
controllers. Um, they all got that nice light gray look to them. Though because of the way the DualSense controllers look, it's got an extra bit there around the analog sticks that is sort of a darker gray.
Mm.
But they do color the face buttons on there, which is kind of one of the weird things they did with the DualSense, is kind of just make that all white buttons on there. So kind of get some actual color there that looks pretty nice.
Mm-hmm.
The weird thing in all this announcement is that there's no price mentioned on anything.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the consoles are special bundles. So the PS5 Pro bundle includes all the stuff it normally has: the 2 terabyte SSD and all that. It's the DualSense controller. It also
Mm-hmm.
includes a DualSense Edge, the DualSense charging station, a special console cover for the disk drive should you have that,
Mm-hmm.
as well as a vertical stand and some special collector's items.
Mm.
The original PlayStation controller style cable connector housing. That's for a USB-C cable.
Mm-hmm.
So it has that kind of the little boxy controller, or the controller port thing on it
Mm-hmm.
to cover it. So it looks really neat when it's plugged in. For PlayStation shapes cable ties, uh, PlayStation sticker, limited edition PlayStation poster,
Mm-hmm.
which is one of 30 possible designs, and a PlayStation paper clip
Mm.
for all your needs. The digital edition for the PS5 is similar. It does not include a DualSense Edge.
Mm.
It just includes a regular DualSense controller and the console cover for the disk drive.
Mm.
No charging stand, but it also includes the vertical stand and the same group of collector's items stuff, the
Mm.
cable housing, ties, and all that stuff. So
Mm.
there's that. But the PlayStation Portal just has the same look as the DualSense controllers, as well as the other things. All that stuff will be released November 21st. There'll be 12,300 units of the PS5 Pro console,
Mm-hmm.
and they are doing, I want to say, pre-orders on the same day as the PS5 Pro is
Mm-hmm.
also going up for pre-order on September 26th. So yeah, you'll be able to get that on PlayStation Direct. For regions where PlayStation Direct is not available, pre-orders will
Yeah.
be available at their local participating retailers. So it seems kind of set up for people to want that cool bundle
Mm-hmm.
and then settle for the Pro when they don't get it, the regular Pro. But yeah, it seems like the Pro console bundle, the Portal, and the Edge wireless controller will be available on
Mm-hmm.
September 26th to pre-order, whereas the regular PS5 will be available on the October 10th,
Mm-hmm.
and the DualSense would be potentially also be available on the 26th. Kind of worded weirdly, but I think that's what this is saying.
Mm.
Uh, or no, everything is available on September 26th, but other retailers will have the regular PS5 and the DualSense, the regular
Yeah.
DualSense on October 10th and September 26th
Mm-hmm.
specifically. So if you're waiting for Amazon or Best Buy or whatever, you will at least get those two items there.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else is at PlayStation Direct or participating retailers in other regions.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, these all look pretty nice, so that's cool. They also have special box art, PlayStation 1 style box art for it, for everything but the Pro. I think the Pro has like a weird white box art to it that sticks out compared to everything else. I feel like that would have been nice to also have that, but otherwise, that's pretty cool announcement. So yeah, you can probably spend a lot of money if you want.
Oh, yes. So much money.
So yeah, that'll be fun to see how people get angry about that on the 26th. So
Oh,
there you
yeah.
go. So that is this week. I forgot about that. So there you go on that. Let's see some more news. Power Wash Simulator's next DLC, the Shrek Special Pack, will finally be out October 10th. So that's good. Looking forward to that. Yeah, that has 5 new areas to wash as best as you can. I think 10 new achievements and all that. So, yeah, that looks cool. Looking forward to that. Also in October, Minecraft is getting a native PS5 version. They're finally doing an upgrade for that to let it, let's see, it'll have a greater render distance while running at 4K 60 FPS. It'll also feature crossplay with all the other platforms, like the PS4 edition is, and it's a free upgrade. They'll also be selling a physical copy of the game for $30. That includes 3,500 of the Microsoft or Minecraft coin for you to spend on random shit. So, probably never have be able to zero it out. So, enjoy that. I did see the other news about Minecraft is that the PS4 Minecraft edition is getting the PSVR support taken out next March. Because they don't want to keep supporting it, I guess. So they're removing it, and unfortunately, due to the way they handled all of that, that is unfortunately something they can do pretty easily. So, yeah, get in and play with that if you want. Maybe find a way to lock that game down from updating, but I guess you would have to do that by essentially turning off all updates, doing that all manually, which is a big pain in the butt. But yeah, there you go. And next up here, we got a date for Clock Tower Rewind in the West. I guess the one I saw a couple of weeks ago was just for Japan. That was for October 31st in Japan. And in the West, they're getting it 2 days earlier on October 29th. So be able to check that out just before Halloween. Get ready for some game playing on Halloween. So there you go. That'll be fun to see. For people interested in like one of the very first horror games on console. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's that's actually like that game is really good, but prepare yourself because it is kind of slow paced. It is, but yeah,
kind of a big adventure game kind of thing.
it is, and part of the problem is that the character animations can be a little slow, especially when you're trying to move from like one part of the room to the other. But you could also say that kind of builds the tension as well. So,
yeah. So yeah, that's that one. We did get one surprise announcement that Freedom Wars Remastered is going to be a thing. The Vita game is getting brought to the PS5, PS4, Switch, and PC January 10th. It's being published by Bandai Namco, which is interesting because it was a Sony game back on the Vita. I believe they have essentially licensed it out to Bandai Namco to make it. Developer is Dimps, the Japanese developer that works on anything. They do not care about any specialties. They will work on anything. So this is getting a big visual upgrade. It'll be available on the platforms that support it, 4K, 60 FPS, upgraded textures, and all that. They're adding difficulty settings, other gameplay changes, overhauled weapon crafting system. Never heard of this game before. Basically, the Vita did not get any Monster Hunter games because those were all exclusive to the 3DS.
Mm-hmm.
And so companies said, what if we make our own Monster Hunter clones for the Vita?
Yeah.
And this is one of them. This was Sony's attempt at that for a big co-op action RPG kind of thing. The story is pretty interesting. As it says here, for the crime of existing, your 1 million year sentence begins today.
Mm-hmm.
In a dystopian future, the world is ravaged by pollution and depletion of natural resources. Humanity lives in sprawling prison complexes called panopticons.
Mm-hmm.
They, when born into this hellscape, are deemed as sinners. Players seek their freedom by volunteering for extremely dangerous combat operations
Mm-hmm.
to compete with other panopticons for what remains of the planet's dwindling resources. Almost like anime Suicide Squad, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was a pretty solid game, but yeah, it did not take off obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, now people are going to be able to check it out here in
Mm-hmm.
January 10th. So
Mm-hmm.
that'll be pretty cool to see. Okay, I see why Dimps is working on it because the director of the original game is
Mm-hmm.
working over there, so they got hired as the developers for it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's cool. Be able to check that out. So yeah, and we got one more announcement here. One more game being announced. This is, let's say, a bit of a surprise. It is like a dragon game, but maybe not one you would expect. It
Mm-hmm.
has a very ridiculous name. Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii.
Yep. You're basically playing Goro as a pirate.
Yeah, it'll be featuring Goro Majima,
Mm-hmm.
being his weird self as a pirate.
Mm-hmm.
Yakuza in Hawaii, I guess. So they'll be reusing that whole area, all those areas from Infinite Wealth. For this, it'll be out February 28th.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's definitely not what I think anybody would have expected as their next project. So yeah, as I say, you're embarking on an over-the-top modern-day pirate adventure with an ex-Yakuza, now pirate captain, and his crew as they engage in exhilarating combat on land and sea in the hunt for lost memories and a legendary treasure.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe this is going to be back in the beat 'em up mold of Yakuza games. So yeah. They mentioned switching between the Mad Dog and pirate fighting styles for that. Yeah, so that'll be fun. Yeah, this is a Goro Majima that has lost his memory as a once feared legend in the Yakuza world. Sets sail in search of treasure. I guess he thinks he's a pirate, so he goes to Hawaii.
Yep.
And tries to find treasure, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he'll figure out and get his memory back. Who knows? We'll see. But yeah, this looks cool. So yeah. Oh, I guess you get a little tiger buddy. So yeah. A lot of weird shit in this article. So yeah, there you go. That's one to look forward to next year. Though also happening next year, as I think most people would have expected, the big skate reboots that EA has been working on for quite a while is planning to launch in early access next year. Not really a huge surprise. It did not seem it was going to be coming out anytime soon. So yeah, seems like it'll be launching in early access. I don't know if that's just on PC or anything, but yeah, not really too much in the way of details here. Seems like they would probably announce a date at the Game Awards, I think. They just announced they had a big trailer for it at Summer Game Fest, where Tim Robinson was the spokesperson for the corporation, the big bad corporation. So yeah, looking forward to that. See what the hell that is. But yeah, that'll be also next year at some point. But yeah, for more EA news, we also found out, unsurprisingly, they're going to make another Star Wars Jedi game. That they are describing as the final chapter in the series. Respawn will be making it, so yeah, unsurprising. Especially as they've had like 40 million people play the two games. So, yeah, looking forward to more of that because those two games have been very good.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's not a huge
Yeah.
surprise at all.
No. And I mean, honestly, those two games were pretty much the games that sort of broke the Star Wars game curse. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so there you go on that. Let's get to some industry news here.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly, we found out more about what's going on with the Flappy Bird game and what's up with the Flappy Bird Foundation.
Yeah. Basically, they're a bunch of thieves.
Well, not really. They are, as the way they describe them in their announcement, is that they are a team of passionate fans of the Flappy Bird game, published in 2013. But in response to a bunch of questions from people, they decided to post this statement on their Twitter account, basically saying here, let's see, the Flappy Bird trademark registration. The Flappy Bird Foundation is a team of passionate fans of the Flappy Bird game, published in 2013. After the game was pulled from stores in 2014, like many others, we found ourselves unable to stop thinking about the game. What they mean there is they were unable to stop thinking about making money off the game. The Flappy Bird trademark and brand was abandoned following the game's takedown. Wanting to revive the game, we filed an application for the trademark and set out to bring the Flappy Bird game back to the community. The fine print in 2018, the United States Patent and Trademark Office granted Mobile Media Partners, Inc. the Flappy Bird trademark registration, which was then acquired by Game Tech Holdings, LLC in 2021, who we then acquired the trademark from in August 2024. There's a community note on this saying the trademark was seized in court by Game Tech Holdings, LLC is not approved by its original creator, Dong Wen. And he has also said, in response to this news, no, I have not. I have no relation with the game. I did not sell anything. I also don't support crypto.
Yeah.
Very to the point.
Yep.
Then they talked about the developer that's working on this, Pio Pio. This section's called Pio Pio versus Cactus, as they brought on Keck, the developer of the game Pio Pio versus Cactus, as a core founding member of the Flappy Bird Foundation. We know the similarities between the game Keck, first published in 2009, and Flappy Bird, which first published in 2013. The gameplay, level design, and the main character all appear strikingly similar. Keck has always been an enthusiastic supporter of the Flappy Bird Foundation and our plans to build on the legacy of his game and Flappy Bird, so much so that he has decided to trust the Foundation with the exclusive rights to Pio Pio versus Cactus. I guess I got a quote from him here. I love that through the Flappy Bird Foundation, we were able to breathe new life into the games I built and inspired. It's incredible to work alongside such a dedicated team of fans and creators who are truly passionate. And they posted a picture, I guess, of what Pio Pio versus Cactus must look like, and it looks like shit. I'd say it does not look interesting at all.
Yeah.
The bird has like big giant lips instead of a beak. That's the way it looks. I don't know. Almost looks like say Mr. Popo's lips.
Well, keep in mind, that I'm pretty sure that character was more or less sort of kind of copy and pasted from Super Mario World.
Yeah.
Which is very obvious if you look at that game in its original form, and it's like, yeah, a lot of this comes from Super Mario World. The pipes that, Flappy Bird's going to, the character design, the wings, it's very obvious. Yeah. Let me put it that way.
Well, I'm talking about Pio Pio versus Cactus. They have
a
comparison here of the look between
them.
Yeah,
definitely. I see it. Oh, yeah. Oh, wow.
Which is like, yeah, this looks like decent for like a little mobile game or flash game, but
yeah.
But also this style of game is not like new at all.
Yeah,
when Flappy Bird
not.
came out or Pio Pio came out.
What
was it? It was like, was it Chopper or something like that? There was like a big flash game where you're a helicopter flying through a cave that had this kind of thing with big like stalactites and stalagmites kind of popping out of the ground. Similar kind of thing. It's not a a new style of game anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But as they say here, going forward, the mission of the Flappy Bird Foundation has always been to preserve and foster the Flappy Bird game and legacy for the community. Fine print in August 2024, the Flappy Bird trademark registration was transferred to the Flappy Bird Foundation, whose role is to act as the steward of the Flappy Bird IP and ecosystem, placing the ownership of both the Flappy Bird trademark and the rights to Pio Pio versus Cactus with the Foundation. As a final step in our preparation to return Flappy Bird to the community. We believe that diverse opinions of passionate gamers can only make this project stronger. Keep on flapping. So yeah, this is a lot of the people that are behind this company is basically crypto people, NFT people. And so it makes a lot of sense. The way they're being weirdly honest here is that they would shortcut making a game that is popular and makes money is by basically getting the IP for a game that used to exist, getting the trademark at least, and then making something that's similar, and then trading off of that name to make money and attention and all that. So that seems basically what they've been doing, and that makes sense for what they're doing, which is to take all the shortcuts they can versus develop something that actually makes money on its own merits versus trading off of a name that was big 10 years ago and then no longer has anything to, it's a dead IP, essentially. But hey, how are you going to make money if you can't get the original person on board?
Yeah.
You just rip them off.
Yep.
And yeah, so the chief creative behind the Flappy Bird revival is Michael Roberts. He's the head of studio at 1208 Productions, a mobile game developer previously described on his website as a pioneer in the Web3 space, which is what crypto and NFT stuff is based on.
Yeah.
Which their previous projects have included multiple NFT-based games. And so, yeah, there's an article acknowledged by Michael Roberts on Blockchain Reporter, which states Flappy Bird's return takes a boost from strategic collaborations with chief names in the Web3 sector. What's more, the game's first season on Telegram gives players the chance to take part in a free-of-cost mining event. So, yeah, that's what they are doing here. So if you were pleasantly surprised and hoping for something that seems potentially good up front, cancel those plans.
Yeah.
Expect the worst here and see how this thing looks when it actually launches. So yeah, let me see here. Our next up story is the big story of the week. Nintendo has filed a lawsuit against Nintendo and the Pokemon Company filed a lawsuit against Power World developer Pocket Pair. Not over design infringement or anything, but patent infringement.
Yeah.
So not necessarily because they are ripping off Pokemon designs, which they are for the most part, and combining designs and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, the main thing here is they say they filed a patent infringement lawsuit in the Tokyo District Court against Pocket Pair on September 18th, 2024.
Yeah.
This lawsuit seeks an injunction against infringement and compensation for damages on the grounds that Power World, a game developed and released by the defendant, infringes multiple patent rights. And yeah, so this seems to go off of a lot of weird patents that they have been applying for in the last handful of years. I don't know if they've brought up specifically which ones they are infringing. I think Pocket Pair has put out a statement basically that, here it is. We have received notice of this lawsuit and will begin the appropriate legal proceedings and investigations into the claims of patent infringement. At this moment, we are unaware of the specific patents we are accused of infringing upon, and we have not been notified of such details. So yeah, it has been suggested they have a variety of patents of like the notion of throwing a Pokeball at a Pokemon, that kind of thing, as well as say patents for highlighting your character when it's behind a tree, which a bunch of Mario games and whatnot that Nintendo makes has. But yeah, unsurprisingly, they would find a means for filing suit against them, and that it maybe wouldn't necessarily be the designs themselves, because that's a whole big mess to go through. As I'm sure their lawyers have very much looked at that, try to figure out where the line is for that. And that the easier thing would be a sort of patent infringement thing.
Yeah.
Based on the various things, because, well, both these games are very different for the most part. There are obviously aspects of, catching the pals in essentially Pokeballs and throwing those to have them come out and help fight. That kind of stuff is pretty similar. So I'm curious what specific examples they have for that, but yeah, otherwise not really a ton to go off of here. But yeah, just not a surprising legal thing that Nintendo would go through for this.
Yeah.
I don't know if you got anything to add on that.
The only thing I have to add is that apparently there's been word going around that one of the artists who apparently used to work for Pocket Pair, who quit, he is really pissed at the company because, according to them, when they were working there, they were actually trying to come up with like original character designs, but the people who had the company were essentially telling them, no, we want you to do it just close enough to Pokemon that it'll like show up on Twitch or whatever. So according to them, like, they knew for a fact that they were actively trying to skirt the line for plagiarism with the Pokemon company. But yeah, it all comes off very shady.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a lot of their designs are very much like legally distinct Pikachu.
Yeah.
Legally distinct Raichu,
Yep.
all this kind of stuff that is in there.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a tough thing to fight. I think, what was it? I think Capcom back in the day sued, I think it was SNK over,
or it was either SNK or I think it might have been Data East.
Yeah, it might have been Data East over their fighting game that had very similar kind of archetype designs for characters.
I can't remember if it was either Power Instinct or Fighter's Destiny. It was one of those. And yeah, I think it was Fighter's Destiny because yeah, it had very similar
Fighter's
archetype.
History.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a lawsuit back from 1994. So yeah. I think, ruled that there was strong evidence that Data East set out to imitate the success of Street Fighter II, noting similarities such as a Chun-Li clone, and several comparable special moves. The court noted that of the 8 pairs of characters, 27 special moves at issue, 3 characters and 5 special moves in Fighter's history are similar to protectable characters and special moves in Street Fighter II. Although the court determined that several moves were similar, the court also noted that Street Fighter II has a total universe of 12 characters and 650 moves.
Yeah.
Capcom concedes, as it must, that the vast majority of the moves are unprotectable because they are commonplace kicks and punches.
Yeah. And also because there's like a very distinct mechanic in in the Fighter's History games that does differentiate them from Street Fighter, which is the armor mechanic that they have, where if you attack certain parts of their body, there are pieces of armor that will come off and they'll start taking more damage, which is something that Street Fighter has, to my knowledge, never done.
Yeah.
Also, that game had frickin', what was it? Karnov as like the final boss. So, yeah.
It was very clear what their inspirations were, but they just they had enough different that it didn't meet the legal definition of just being complete ripoffs.
Yeah. Data East was a very interesting company. I did like a whole random factoid about them months ago. But
Yeah.
like they, most people, a lot of people will probably remember them for pinball because they were a really big, pinball manufacturer. But
Yeah.
the game series they did do were very kind of off the wall type stuff. Like I mentioned, Karnov, for example, really good example. That's literally a platformer where you play like some weird, like Russian Mongol strongman.
Yeah.
Or who breathes fire. Or there was that other game where it was like a infinite runner type thing where you were playing this dude who was he kind of looked like a Henshin hero. And that guy ended up becoming like the final boss for like the sequel to Fighter's History. um, and then there was their like Glory of Heracles, which was their RPG series that was based around Greek mythology, instead of the what Dragon Quest did. And then also there was the fact that they had a side business making manufacturing dried mushrooms and condoms.
Yeah.
Just it was a funny, it was just a real oddball of a video game company.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of the news here. Because I very much think like a pure art design kind of thing
Yeah,
would maybe run into the same thing of like you've got hundreds of Pokemon. And this one has like elements of like two or three, but you don't
yeah,
necessarily own the rights to the concept of birds.
no. They also don't really own the concept of like the whole Pocket Monster thing either, because there was at least one game that came out before that was sort of similar.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Uh,
we've stayed too far on this topic. So
yeah.
yeah,
It's an interesting
hmm
lawsuit, but there's not really much in the way of specific
hmm
details yet.
yeah,
I imagine they're probably more like a settlement of sorts. Just pay them
hmm
some of that money you've made selling several million copies and move on with your day
yeah,
for that, and let Nintendo have their win, I guess.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, our last one here involves the newly finalized Saber Interactive company, particularly their
hmm
CEO Matt Karch,
yeah,
who has made some waves recently since the launch of Space Marine 2,
yeah,
basically by commenting on YouTube videos,
yeah,
particularly ones of people that tend to create these sort of anti-woke videos saying like,
yeah,
"Oh, this is a victory for us," even though we were whining earlier this year about
hmm
lady space marines, how that was not
yeah,
allowed. But the people in charge of the Warhammer stuff basically being like, you know what, there's some women too. People
hmm
lost their fucking minds.
oh yeah,
Um, he posted a comment on this video being like, "Oh, we're going back." Yeah, the video called "Space Marine 2" is a reminder of what we lost,
hmm
by YouTuber Legendary Drops, in which he praised the game for its gruesome combat, beautiful presentation, and celebration of Warhammer 40k world and lore. Try to juxtapose it with modern games that are either live service hamster wheels or single player experiences that feel narratively convoluted and full of bloated
hmm
gameplay systems. But he also talked about the game oozing with so much masculinity that I feel like I've been in a desert for the last few years.
hmm
How it has themes, quote, themes nobody wants to go near anymore, like for courage and honor, for brotherhood, for the emperor. The legendary drops went on to praise the limited banter among the characters, calling out games that eschew simple good
hmm
and evil characters and more stoic dialogue. So I was like, I don't know that the Space Marines are necessarily much of a verbose group.
hmm
They seem very much like the guys that are dropped in to handle the killing
hmm
and solve conflicts,
hmm
which is really what they exist for. Like the same was the case of the original game, the original
hmm
Space Marine game, was a good third person shooter that was just no frills outside of the fact they had a multiplayer mode and all that. But
hmm
that seems very much like what you would do because this is a game being made on a pretty decent budget, but they're not
hmm
going out of their way to make something that's going to be, you know, an Overwatch 2 or a Destiny 2 or anything like that.
hmm
I don't think there's any loot or anything in that game. So yeah, being used for that. But yeah, the video didn't blow up until a few days later when YouTuber Asmongold, who, if you don't know, the recent like resurgence of essentially what is being called Gamergate 2.0, he was very much one of the key people kind of kickstarting that, along with Mark Kern, also known as Grums, who was a big proponent of the original Gamergate. It was just a whiny baby man.
Yeah. And he's one of those people whose like ego outsizes their actual accomplishments.
Yeah, because people wonder like, who the hell is this guy? And he's like, he was at Blizzard when they made all those games that people liked.
Yeah, and he wasn't even like a designer or anything. He was just one of the
It's like what he
programmers.
did there was just he existed.
Yeah.
He acts like he is a big gaming figure as a result.
Yeah, and then he went on and tried to start his own company. They had a game that was being made. You may or may not have heard of it. It was called Firefall.
Yeah, the game that you only know because of conventions.
Yeah, it became infamous because of the over-bloated publicity stunts they tried to do, including the infamous Firefall bus that I think never actually got used. It just like ended up in like a warehouse somewhere.
I think somebody bought that bus at some point.
I think they did. And also just the fact that it later came out that there was like a bunch of asset theft in that game as well, at least in its first version. And then he's basically spent the last few years claiming to be working on a game, and the actual progress is almost non-existent. There's like a demo, and that's about it. And him constantly like, trolling for more funding.
Yeah.
So basically, he's a con artist, is what we're saying.
Yeah. Luckily, I don't think many people are funding that thing.
Only a handful of his own little personality cult, I guess.
Yeah. He's trying to get get big enough to do direct subscriptions on Twitter, and I don't think people are taking to that.
No.
So yeah, it's just kind of he's just a grifter.
Mm-hmm.
Barely notable other than he posts a lot about anything.
Yeah.
And it's been funny about this game because people are posting that the woke game industry is going to kill this game, or this game is gonna die because of woke, because it's woke, and then it does well, and they're like, we saved this game from the woke mob, and it's like, you guys, anything is woke depending on whether it's good or bad. That's basically what it is at this point.
Yeah.
And so yeah, this whole thing is a part of that says Asmongold, who is just a shitty person as well. Posted an hour-long reaction to. Go ahead.
All you need to know about Asmongold is that he is a fairly well-off streamer who chooses to live like a pig.
Yeah.
Like, there have been a lot of jokes about how awful the room, how gross and grody looking the room is that he streams in. Apparently, it goes further than that, too. Apparently, he doesn't brush his teeth very often. It's just overall, he's just a really gross human being.
Yeah. And so he basically posted a nearly hour-long reaction to this video, agreeing with most of what Legendary Drops said. The problem is not that modern games have complex characters. The problem is that their idea of a complex character is a self-indulgent loser that doesn't have any charisma. And that's the reason why I remember I had to read The Catcher in the Rye, and I hated that book so much. And I feel like the reason why I hated the book is because I thought the main character, like Holden Caulfield or whatever, was the biggest simp loser pussy bitch that I've ever, like, just such a loser. I bet the people that fucking write stuff like fucking Dustborn or whatever, they love that, so they think it's great. And it's like, boy, that just seems like you don't like reading specific kinds of books, but
Yeah.
also that you didn't learn anything from any reading. You don't read for just personal growth
enjoyment
kind of stuff.
or anything. It's also really funny considering that you're not supposed to necessarily like or agree with Holden Caulfield. Like, the book kind of, if you read any fewer than, about 30 pages, it becomes pretty clear that, occasionally he likes to think that he's like wise beyond his years or whatever, but he really isn't. He's
Yeah.
just a jaded kid who is convinced that he's the only real person in the world.
Yeah. So yeah, there's that whole thing that happened, and happened to have a comment on this that let's see. Uh yeah, a comment from Matt Karch
Mm-hmm.
saying, let's see, hey man, CEO of Saber here. I love your videos. When we signed the deal to make Space Marine 2, all I wanted was a throwback game. We had the chance
Mm-hmm.
to work on something which by its nature was old school. I can't even comprehend many of the current games that we play these days. They are too complex and too much of an investment. And then continued on, we worked on Halo back in the day. That game could be distilled down to the simplest of shooting the loops, but it was entirely addicting. That is what we wanted to recapture. I hope that games like Space Marine 2 and Wukong are the start of a reversion to a time when games were simply about fun and
Mm-hmm.
immersion. I spent some time as chief operating officer at Embracer, and I saw games there that made me want to cry with their overblown attempts at messaging or imposing morals on gamers. We just want to do some glory kills and get the heart rate up a little. For me, that is what games should be about.
Nobody said you couldn't do that.
Yeah,
Like, where,
like
where the
Doom
hell did this?
happens for a
Yeah,
reason.
Doom happens, for God's sakes. We had Astrobot recently, and that game is, a cute little platformer. There was, just where does, I swear to God, every single one of these people have this weird ass persecution complex. Like they're always the victim. You're not a
Yeah.
victim.
It's because they grew up when games were aimed squarely at white male boys. And now that games are made for more than just that, they are all being shoved down their throats in a way
Yeah,
that they don't like because, hey, these are games that maybe people that like story, like narrative, like seeing uh, more variety of people in it.
yeah.
And that is bad news for them because they're being wiped out of games. And not really,
It's
but
not real. And no, it's like, oh, this game is what? Well, then don't buy it. Don't play it.
no, it's
You
part of the
know,
culture war now.
Yeah, you're gonna go on a freaking comment section and know, oh, this game looks woke. I'm not gonna buy it. Well, then don't. You guys
Yeah.
go on and on about freaking virtue signaling. Look who's talking.
Yeah, and then like Dustborn was mentioned, that's a game where these kind of people literally flock to their Twitter account to harass the uh, every single post that they did to try to harass the people working there and
Mm-hmm.
find anybody that labels themselves as being a developer at that studio and working on that game and harass them as well to make a point that they
Mm-hmm.
can be shitty to and all that. Um, and yeah, mentioning this getting around on Twitter to those kind of people with positive responses fluctuating between things like you were doing God's work. And I'm glad we got games failing hard. They have pronouns in them. Like, who the fuck plays these DEI games?
A lot of people. A lot of those games you keep going on and about. Most of them sell pretty well.
Yeah, and that's this whole weird thing that's, like I mentioned earlier, where they were hedging their bets that maybe uh, Space Marine 2 wouldn't do well because and claim that it's woke, and that's why it didn't do well. But then it did well, and so it beat back the woke mob. It's that kind of stupid. Like, if it does well, it's not woke, obviously, and if it doesn't do well, it's obviously because it's woke. Not could not be other reasons or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's kind of simple black and white framing of all this shit that just looks real stupid. But yeah, people looked at the YouTube account to see, like, is it actually his? It was created in May of this year. The bio reads CEO of Saber Interactive,
Mm-hmm.
generic male of support of sorts, lover
Mm-hmm.
of loud guitars, violent games, fast cars, and all sorts of whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
The generic bullshit, but um, Kotaku here contacted Saber Interactive to get an idea if that actually was him, and
Mm-hmm.
they declined to go into specifics, saying Saber's not commenting on this matter. But then later on, Karch commented about it on LinkedIn. They got a question there saying, whoever wrote that seems pretty sharp. Seems like him basically saying, like, yeah, I wrote that. I'm a smart ass guy.
Yeah.
That person's really cool because that's me. It's like, Jesus Christ, guy. Don't make yourself seem like the smartest person in the fucking world for making a good Warhammer game. So yeah, that's this whole stupid thing that's been going on. As people that obviously want to avoid the stupid anti-woke mob. Seeing this guy that's running Saber now, be like, man, I don't want to fucking deal with this guy's bullshit. Especially if they start making all their decisions based on that. Because if you look at what Saber Interactive has been making of late, they make a lot of shit at this point. They're a very big developer. They own a bunch of subsidiaries and such. So I'm trying to pull up a list here of their more recent stuff. Warhammer Space Marine 2. Teardown last year was published by them. Mud Runner, that stuff pretty recently has been. Roadcraft coming up is them. Kingdom Come Deliverance is one of their games. Expeditions, the Mud Runner game, is them. The John Carpenter game, whatever the hell that comes out, Toxic Commando. The new A Quiet Place, the Road Ahead game.
Yep.
It's out soon as them. Wildcard Football, Gloomhaven, World War Z game. Yeah, ton of games that they have been working on, and they got stuff coming up as well. Like that Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake is still supposedly happening at some point. The Jurassic Park survival game, a bunch of others. So it's like, if you're trying to avoid them for the actions of the CEO, like that's going to be tough because they make and publish a bunch of stuff. So that's another thing to watch out for when you're looking at games that are interesting. So yeah, that's just the social media bullshit of the week there. As a CEO feeling like he's the smartest person in the entire world. And showing his ass for people that give a shit about if the CEO is a shitty person or not. So yeah. There you go. And that's the note we'll be ending on this week. For that. We got a bunch of games coming out this week, I believe. The Zelda game is out this week. Let me see here. Yeah, here we go. Ara History Untold we mentioned is out this week. Epic Mickey Rebrushed is out this week. There's Balatros on mobile this week. The G.I. Joe beat 'em up game is out on PC this week. It's coming to consoles later. Let's see. Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom is out on Friday. Lollipop Chainsaw is out in Japan. The remake of Night Slashers is out this week. Shadows of Doubt is out this week. Worms Armageddon Anniversary Edition is also out this week. EA Sports FC 25. Another Five Nights at Freddy's game is out this week. That Looney Tunes Wacky World of Sports is out this week. And yeah, that's Raynaudis is also out this week. So a lot of stuff. A big variety of stuff there. So that's some things you can check out for this week. But yeah, thank you, Brandon, for joining this week.
Yeah, always.
We'll be back next week with a new slate of news. We'll be able to talk about Zelda stuff. Hopefully. So thank you all for tuning in. If you enjoy the show, let friends and family know they should check it out. And select strangers that aren't going to post the smuggest comments on YouTube. Don't post comments at all unless you're saying nice things about good people.
Seriously.
Avoid the shitty side of YouTube because you got better things to do with your time than that.
Seriously, it's not worth it.
So yeah, thank you all for tuning in. Hope you have a good week ahead. We'll see you all next time. Have a good one.